Hello everyone! Kumusta? This is Che and welcome to my channel, Mabuhay from Philippines. Today I will be answering one of the frequently asked questions here in my channel, and that is about the rain in my orchids. For those new here, I live in the Philippines and I grow all of my orchids outside, so they are exposed to sun and rain, but I installed some shading net. And here in the Philippines, we have two seasons, the rainy season and hot season. The rainy season started last June, should end this November, but it is already December and we still have rains almost every day. And it rained last night, so I think that this is the perfect time that I will answer that question. It is already 8:30 in the morning and my orchids are still wet because of the rain last night. So I will show you how are my orchids after months of rains. I will show you per group of orchids. I will show you how are my Vandas, how are my Phalaenopsis, my Dendrobiums, Cattleyas, and Oncidiums. So let's go. Here are my Vandas in clay pots. I have a video how I planted them in these clay pots and I will just include the link in the description. They still haven't flowered yet, and also I did not apply bloom booster fertilizer since we transferred here. But if you are interested how to apply bloom booster fertilizer, I have a video and I will include the link in the description. These Vandas, my Mocaras, this Vanda here, as well as the Vanda at the back, the Vandas at the back, they are doing great. Look at the roots. They are growing really well. Even this Vanda, I just planted this Vanda here when I transferred all of my orchids here, and the roots are growing nicely. However, I think that there are snails, so some of the root tips are cut, and I think that the snails did that. And here are my Vandas in hanging baskets. They are not as healthy as before. I think it is because of the temperature here. It is colder here, but they are able to flower. They are growing spikes, and I think they are still fine. They are still doing great, however not as great as before because the previous environment was windy and hot most of the time. Here it always rains and I think that they love the rain. However, there are no strong winds, so they don't dry up fast. And I am still thankful because they are not sick and I don't apply fungicide. Since my orchids moved here, I didn't apply fungicide, and I don't think that I will apply fungicide because I am not familiar with that. I tried before and I don't want to try it again. I am just afraid that I will apply incorrectly, so if the orchids will get sick, I will just transfer them. I will just take care of them, and if they will grow, they will still grow. I will be happy, and if they don't survive, maybe that's just the way it will be. But so far they are fine. My Vandas in hanging baskets as well as in the DIY Vanda hanger are doing great. But here I have some I have a Radies. I have an Orchids here. I also have some Vandas here, some small Vandas which I planted in plastic pots with some lava rocks, and they are doing well. And this small Vanda which I showed you before, it flowered for me with 2 spikes. The rest are just growing. However, this Orchids, I think, has a crown rot. I think has a crown rot. So maybe if it will come off, I will just transfer this to a tree. I will attach this to a tree. Actually, I bought this as Vanda luzonica. I have a video when I unboxed them and planted them in different pots and media. However, I think as it grows, I think it is an Orchids and not a Vanda luzonica. But let's see what will happen. So these are, I also have this Stylist here. After I transferred her in a bigger pot, it did not grow, it did not progress. So it is of the same size since I repotted her, but the other one is doing really great. So this is the Stylist, of the same age, of the same pot, and of the same time that I got. I think that my Vandas are doing well, not as great as before, but they are acclimatizing, and I think that they will still love their new environment. So let's see my Phalaenopsis. I think of all of my orchids, the Phalaenopsis are the ones who really love this new place, this new garden, the new environment, because most of them are spiking. Spikes here, there, and there. I think out of the many Phalaenopsis that I got, that I have, only 5 of them are not spiking. So I think that they are really happy. Look at this flower, the flowers. This is a very pretty Phalaenopsis, and as you can see, I just saw this now. The flower had a spot, and I think that this is a botrytis, a common disease which an orchid can develop if it is always wet. And of course, I cannot do anything about that because all of my orchids are exposed to rain, so they are always wet. As you can see, they are still wet. I did not water them, it just rained last night. And it is always the picture almost every day because it is still rainy season. Our rainy season can extend or can shorten, and now I think that the rainy season is extended. But of course, even in rainy season, our temperature is still not cold, but colder here compared to the previous garden. And when it is hot season, there can still be some rain. So that is our climate here in the Philippines. And now I will show you my Dendrobiums. So here are some of my Dendrobiums, and they are still looking great. They are still flowering. I will also show you the Dendrobiums here. So they are spiking, and my epidendrums, not a dendrobium, but since I am here, I will show them to you. 2 of them will be blooming soon, the pink one and the red one. This one, the orange one, supposed to be will flower, however the buds blasted. But I have Dendrobiums here. They are in plastic pots with hydroton, lava rocks, and stones. And the leaves are yellowing, but I think that this is normal for dendrobiums, or I think not really. However, I don't know what is this, what happened to the leaves, and still I will not apply fungicide. I will just let them be. If they get sick, I will just apply some of the things that I think will help them, but I will not apply fungicide. But since my orchids are exposed to insects and pests, I have applied one time pesticides, and I think that I will apply insecticide or pesticide some other days, because on the next days, because I saw some insects again. The leaves of my Phalaenopsis also have this. I think this is because of the rain, although they are doing really great, and for the first time they are spiking for me. This happened to the leaves, so I think the cause of that is because of the rain, but I cannot do anything about that, and I will not do anything about that. I will show you that my dwarf dendrobiums, I think, are really not doing great, and I think this is because of the algae which died, and they suffocated the roots of these dendrobiums. These dendrobiums have fine roots, so when the algae turned brown like that, the orchids did not like it, so that happened. So I will see what will happen to them. I will spray some hydrogen peroxide, I think, on the next days, and hopefully they will still live. And here are my other dendrobiums in clay pots and charcoal, or some are in plastic pots, so they are doing well. Clay pots are porous, so I think that the orchids love that, and this dendrobium here will soon open her flowers. My sangumay or my Dendrobium anosmum still have lots of leaves, but this one gave me 2 flowers. I hope that on the next months, the other canes, these 3 canes, will also produce flowers for me. Now I will show you my Cattleyas. My copper queen flowered again, so this one opens her flower as pink and then turn peach, turn orange, and will turn yellow before it drops her flower. And my Cattleya Amazing Thailand is blooming. She is very pretty and very fragrant. However, look at the plant. I removed some of the stones because most of the roots are rotten. I think that is because she is always wet. And in my previous environment, in my previous garden, it loved the climate there. She loved the climate there. She grew lots of new roots, but here most of those roots that she produced when I transferred her in this pot are rotten. So I think that I will be repotting her with hydroton still in plastic pot when she finished blooming. My other Cattleyas are fine, but this one, she had a sheath before covering until this part, and then when I noticed the flower buds are already rotten. So that happened to this Cattleya because of the almost daily rain, and she's growing and new growth. Here are my other Cattleyas. This one is spiking, and actually these Cattleyas here, including my Copper Queen, I planted them as seedlings, and I hope that the other ones will be blooming soon for me. And for the last type of orchid that I will show you are my Oncidiums. So this dancing lady had already bloomed for me here, and now she is growing another spike. I have new Oncidiums here. They are growing, and hopefully they will bloom for me very soon. My Cheery baby, I transferred her here. I think that she was sick, and now she is bouncing back and she is growing new growth. I hope that she will also bloom very soon, because since I showed her first bloom when I got this orchid, she didn't bloom again for me. So hopefully in this setup and in this environment, she will bloom for me. My Tolumnias, one is flowering, and I cannot say that they are doing well, because when they transferred here, they suffered sunburn, and most of the fans were burned, and I think that they are bouncing back. However, since they also have fine roots just like these dendrobiums, I think that some of the algae are suffocating the roots, because some of the algae had already turned brown. So I will also spray hydrogen peroxide to these orchids, and hopefully that will help them. I also have a jewel orchid here, and she is doing really great. And I still have other orchids which I haven't shown you before, but I am not very familiar with them, and I am still learning how to grow them. But for most of my orchids are common orchids, the Vandas, Phalaenopsis, Dendrobiums, and Cattleyas, Oncidiums. That's how they are doing after almost daily rains. And I think that I need to show you this very beautiful phal. It is a medium-sized bloom, medium-sized Phalaenopsis, and I really love the color. Yellow with pink lip, and she has other very beautiful buds which will soon open for me. So these are my orchids. I think that there are still some which I haven't shown you, but just to answer the question if my orchids are okay, or if the orchids are okay to be exposed to rain, I think that the answer is, for me, for my environment, for my orchids, the answer is yes. But they can be prone to disease or infection. However, as I have told you, I don't want to use fungicide. The hot season is approaching or is already here, and I think that I will no longer worry about that on the next months. However, the spots on the leaves and the flowers, I can do anything about that, and they will stay on the flowers, and hopefully that is the bad thing that happened. That is the only bad thing that happened to my orchids because of the rainy season, and hopefully no more disease, no disease or no fungal infection, no more fungal infection. I am sorry, I am already blabbing, and I am not good with English because my mother tongue is Bisaya. I am just trying to explain to you as much as I can about my orchids because I love growing them and I love sharing them with you. And I also watch other YouTube videos aside from Miss Orchid Girl, which is the most popular one in YouTube. I also have YouTube friends here who are also growing orchids, and hopefully you can also visit their channel because it is fun to see how other people, how other growers grow their orchids, and we might learn something from them. You might learn something from me, or we may have the same environment or setup for the orchids, and we can learn from each other. I am not saying that I am an expert with orchids. I just grew up with orchids around and my love for orchids and flowers. So thank you for being with me. Hopefully I answered the question, and if you still have some questions, I hope that you can write them in the comments, and hopefully I can answer them. The orchids here are also doing fine. So these are my mother's dendrobiums, or my dendrobiums, which I left in my mother's care, and they were attached in Mother de Cacao. I just transferred them in clay pots and they are doing well. These are my newly transferred Vandas, my mother's Vandas, and they are growing lots and lots of roots. Also, my two Vandas, which I planted in plastic pots with stones, which I showed you in a video, are doing great. They are growing lots and lots of new roots. And this one, which I just transferred maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, is already spiking. And I am so excited. Regarding fertilizers, I still fertilize my orchids regularly, and I think that it is very important to fertilize your orchids during rainy season because the rain flushes your orchids. And I have a video how I fertilize my orchids. I will also include the link in the description. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for watching. Maraming salamat. Paalam. See you on my next videos.